Everybody say. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, and along with Attorney Lee Merritt, who's a candidate for Texas Attorney General, who is here very dedicated to making sure that Ahmaud Arbery's family gets justice, even though he has a lot of matters going on in Texas. It shows his commitment to equal justice for all citizens. So I'm very grateful to stand with him. We're going to address you after Reverend Al Sharpton, our civil rights leader and our faith leader, is introduced by Attorney Merritt. And then briefly, we will have a comment if they feel up to it by Wanda Cooper and Marcus Arbery. And maybe Attorney Merritt and I will take one or two questions. This is a very consequential day, not just for the family of Ahmaud Arbery, but for families all over America. We have to show that America must be better than what we saw in that video in 2021. The next Attorney General for the state of Texas, Attorney Lee Merritt.
Good morning. On behalf of Ahmaud Arbery's family, on behalf of Wanda Cooper Jones, his mother, on behalf of Marcus Arbery, we want to continue to express our appreciation for the good Reverend Al Sharpton, who has been has stood in support of this family since the beginning. And he has asked us this morning to gather one more time for prayer because the jury is still out. And in a lot of ways, we feel like the jury is still out about the American judicial system. And I think the answer in part is prayer, and that we must continue to stand together and pray together. And we're hoping, of course, the goal is to do all that we can to continue to show this family love and support. This is a very anxious time for Wanda, and we thank Reverend Al for fulfilling the role of pastor during this really chaotic time. So that's Sharp, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Let me say that we said from the beginning, when we first heard of what happened to Ahmaud, that we would be here until the end. And we are here, Reverend Baker and many other ministers, we're here at the end of what we hope will be justice. We want this mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, and this father, Marcus, to know that long after y'all are gone, we'll be here. They sat and heard some of the most racist statements made in a court of law that I've heard in the decades I've been out here. I've sat in many courtrooms. I've never sat in a courtroom where a victim was akin to an animal, talking about dirty toenails, like he was not even a human, but an animal that should have covered it up with socks. I've been in many courtrooms. I've never heard ministers that were praying.
The only thing that was tendered, that's why I think we need to ask them about this short version, because the original video is from Ahmaud turning around and running back. If it's a different, how can I put this? We did tender in about 4 different versions that were shortened, that were high contrast, high definition, and things like that. So I just
Well, if it's not in, then I think we have to play the longer version, and indicate that it's not in evidence. If that's what they want, we'll clarify.
Thank you, Judge.
And while we're playing back, we're playing the enhanced, however we want to call it, just make sure that we've identified it as such for the jury.
We need to make sure we identify by exhibit number. Yeah, I agree.
Your Honor, it would be our position that if they've asked for the short version and we know where that short version begins on the long version, we just start the video at that point.
That was going to be my suggestion. We maybe have the 4-person explain it, just the 4-person. They just want to pick it up from after Mr. Bryan picks his camera phone back up again. If that's what they're looking for, then we could adjust it with the one that's in evidence.
And Your Honor, I think I may have discovered what they're talking about. State's Exhibit 190 is the complete video. 191 is the half-speed video, and that is the shortened video. And then we have the high contrast video at 192. So I believe that may be what they're talking about, with the 191 half-speed and 192 high contrast.
As long as the half-speed video is clearly identified as such. Otherwise, I think from Mr. Bryant's perspective, we'd rather have the whole video.
Well, let's see what they're asking for. Go with that. Give those numbers. I've got 191 is the half-speed short version. 192 is the high contrast version. You said 190 is
The actual full video.
full video.
And then the 911 call.
And then the 911 calls the 223 911 call by Greg McMichael.
Yes. And that will be, I believe it is States Exhibit 144.
And are the alternates excluded from this, Your Honor? They're not. Okay.
No, I bring them in just so they're aware of what's happening. Although they're to begin deliberations again with the panel, if in fact somebody does not, or somebody is replaced on the panel, I always think it's good for them to know what has been presented to the panel as a whole. Okay, so I'm going to ask for clarification. Once I get clarification, I'll make sure we are clear on what exhibits are going to be played. I'm going to ask the state to go ahead and play those exhibits, just maybe the easiest way to do them on the board that we have. Okay. We're good? Yeah, let's go ahead and get the panel. And again, the request is 3 times each, so we're just going to replay it 3 times. Or replay each exhibit 3 times, I should say.
And the second to last of those is the full video. Did I understand that correctly?
It's not, it's an enhanced version of it.
The high contrast version. They've asked for the short version and the high contrast version. I'm going to clarify what that is.
So you can understand why the unenhanced actual speed.
But that,
video-
Mr. Goff, that's not what they're asking for. I'm going to do what they're asking for.
We object to playing all those and not playing the other. We think it, we object to. Because, Your Honor, they're considering all 3 defendants, and that's not what my client's seeing. We know which exhibit he's seeing. And we're concerned is that playing all these other enhanced, filtered, whatever, partial, you know, is favoring and enhancing one part of the evidence over another.
Your Honor, one of the things to note, Greg McMichael's 911 call is about 5 minutes long. And so, meaning it's like the first 20 or 30 seconds where you hear something and then it's dead air with the 911 operator going, "Sir, are you there? Sir, are you there?" Obviously, we will do whatever the jury wants to play, which portion they want. I just wanted the court to be aware it is a 5 minute, about 5 minute long 911 call. So,
I could suggest that the foreperson or somebody just raised their hand when they heard as far as they want to hear.
Because I don't think we went through the entire 911 call in evidence, but it was tendered in.
All right for the jury.
All right, y'all can be seated. All right, I have a question or request really that's come back. Madam Foreperson, the request I have is we, the jury, request to see the following videos 3 times each. 1, the original video, short version. 2, the enhanced high contrast version. And then we would also like to listen to the 911 call on 223 made by Greg McMichael. And then there was a request that folks could spread out in the gallery, which obviously we have already addressed. And I'm going to go ahead and play this evidence, although I want to make sure that we are in fact playing what is being requested. And the reason I say that is because on this first bullet point, the original video short version, the original video, the full video was tendered into evidence as Exhibit 190. There is a half-speed version of the short version of the video, which is Exhibit 191. And then there is what was described as the high contrast version of the video, which is Exhibit 192. I do want to make sure that I understand what's being requested. We can play the full video, a shortened version of the full video, if I get a clear understanding of what exactly the jury is looking for, or 191 is the half-speed version of the short video. Did that make sense?
I believe so. We do not want the half-speed version.
Okay. So it's the full, the video itself from what point? From where the camera gets picked up? That's what I'm understanding.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. So when the camera, okay. So can the state find that point on the video? And then the high contrast version, I understand, is the shortened version that is in high contrast. And then I want to make sure that you all understand the 911 call made by Greg McMichael on February 23rd. The entire call is about 5 minutes. The first part of it was played, and then there's some dead air and some follow-up just to see if somebody's on the line. If I could get you to just raise your hand at the point at which we no longer need to keep listening to that 911 call, and we'll stop it at that point. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you understand where we are?
Yes, Judge.
All right, let's go ahead. And I understand you were requesting that each of the videos be played 3 times each.
That's correct.
Okay, let's start with the original video, picking up from when the phone comes up. That would be 190, a shortened version of Exhibit 190. Yes. Yeah, you can sit wherever you are most comfortable. It's on the record. We'll say where we're playing it from too, please.
Yes, Judge. For the record, the state is publishing State's Exhibit 190, beginning at 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Just for the record, that was 190 starting at 108, played 3 times for the panel. I think we are at 192.
Now published on State's Exhibit 192.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was 192, 3 times as requested by the panel. And then we have 144. And again, Madam Foreperson, if you just raise your hand at the point at which we need to stop.
Hello. 911, what's the address of emergency? I'm out here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street. Satilla, where Satilla Shores? I don't know what street we're on. Stop right there. Is it? Stop. Charlie! Sir, hello, sir.
Stop it.
Sir, where you at?
Okay. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would, I'm sorry?
Did they want to hear that one 3 times?
No, that was just the request once.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you would go and return to the jury room to continue with your deliberations.
All right, for the jury.
All right, I'm handing the note to the clerk as Court's Exhibit 6. If I can keep everybody on 10-minute call. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheba Russell. We are interrupting programming right now with some breaking news. We've just been alerted that a verdict has been reached in the trial over Ahmaud Arbery's death in Southeast Georgia. Travis McMichael, his father Gregory McMichael, and their neighbor William Roddy Bryan are all charged with murder. They're accused of chasing down Arbery in their trucks back in February of 2020 and then shooting him. The defendants claim they thought Arbery had committed a burglary in their neighborhood and were trying to make a citizen's arrest. Prosecutors argue there's no evidence Arbery was behind recent burglaries in the area, and Arbery's family has long said they believe he was targeted for simply being Black. All right, as we are waiting to take a live feed from the Glynn County courtroom, and we are being told it's going to take about 10 minutes for everyone to gather inside that courtroom as the jury reads the verdict here. These are 12 members of the jury here, one Black member of the jury. Superior Court Judge Timothy Walmsley has been overseeing this trial for several weeks now, and it has been a long, long trial as we've been listening in here. All of this starting last year, February 23rd, 2020, and that's when the incident happened. In May, and that is when the cell phone video was showed to the world, showing Arbery jogging through that neighborhood in Satilla Shores, Brunswick. 3 men started pursuing him in their pickup trucks. Okay, I'm getting some word about a court feed. Joe, can you talk to me again, please? Okay. All right, we're still waiting for that court feed to pop up now. We've just learned about a verdict coming in from this jury just about 5 minutes ago. So as we're waiting for that to happen, just want to bring you up to speed on this national case, this racially charged case that we've been following for more than a year now, a nearly all-white jury hearing the case for several weeks. They started coming together and trying to figure out how they wanted to weigh in on this case right around noon yesterday. And so they've been deliberating for more than 9 hours. Got to put the dots together here, but it should be more than 10 hours now that this jury has been deliberating. They started around noon yesterday. They broke around 6:30 last night, came back to the courtroom at 8:30 this morning, wanted to take a look at some other videos. And here we are right around 1:30, the day before Thanksgiving, and we are hearing that the jury has reached a verdict. This is a live look inside the Glynn County Courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia, as the prosecutors and the attorneys for the 3 defendants, Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Roddy Bryant, are there waiting for the jury to come into the courtroom. The defendants are facing 27 charges in total. We have malice murder, 4 charges of felony murder, 2 charges of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, criminal attempt to commit a felon. All of the defendants are facing these charges. The judge, when he instructed the jury yesterday, said that on one of the counts, aggravated assault, that if William Roddy Bryant was not found guilty by the jury, that they could also consider him guilty of reckless conduct, reckless driving, and simple assault. So we shall see what the jury says, how they weigh in on this national case here. You're looking again live inside the courtroom, the Glynn County Courthouse. You're looking at William Roddy Bryan there with his attorney, Kevin Goff. Kevin Goff himself making national headlines, asking for a mistrial numerous times throughout this trial, speaking against the prominent Black pastors coming into the courtroom, saying that they were swaying the jury to lean toward the direction of finding the defendants guilty. He didn't want them there. But the judge, Judge Timothy Walmsley, had said, no, it's fine for everybody to be there in the courtroom. We did see the Reverend Al Sharpton outside the courthouse today as well, praying with the family, praying with the community before this jury had reached a verdict. But again, if you're just joining us live, we have learned within the last 5 minutes or so that the jury has reached a decision in the trial over the death of Ahmaud Arbery. So we are watching William Roddy Bryant and everyone else inside the courtroom standing as either the judge or the jury has come in. So let's try to listen in here, see if there's anything we can hear to this live feed from the Glynn County courtroom.
Food.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Madam Foreperson, I understand you have reached a verdict as to each defendant.
We have.
Please hand your verdict forms to the sheriff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and address each one of these verdict forms separately. The first verdict form I have is the state of Georgia versus Travis McMichael. Mr. McMichael, please stand. Verdict is as follows. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, state of Georgia, the state of Georgia versus Travis McMichael, case number CR 000433. Jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. I'm going to ask that whoever just made an outburst be removed from the court, please.
Oh, God.
As this court has indicated, I ask that there be no outbursts in the court, and I expect as much from the gallery. Please respect the court's desire for this as we move forward. If you feel like you need to make a comment or otherwise demonstrate with respect to the verdict, I do ask that you step out of the courtroom now. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Dated this 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson. Have a seat. As to Gregory McMichael. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, the state of Georgia versus Greg McMichael, case number CR 20000433. Jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, not guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. we, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. This 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson. As to William R. Bryan. In the Superior Court of Glenn County, State of Georgia versus William R. Bryan, case number CR 2000433, jury verdict form. Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 3, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 4, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 5, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, not guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty. Signed this 24th day of November by the foreperson. Go ahead and see. Court having read the verdicts and accepted the verdicts, anything from the state?
No, Your Honor, nothing from the state.
Anything from the defense?
We ask the jury be polled, Your Honor.
All defendants ask the jury be polled? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask each of you individually a set of 2 questions with respect to the verdicts that I have just read. If you could please respond when you hear your juror number. Juror number 1, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 2, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now? I think I can't. Okay, 2. Juror number 3, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes.
Juror number 4, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
Juror number 5, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 7, you have heard verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 8, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 9, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 10, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 11, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 12, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, Your Honor.
And juror 16, you have heard the verdicts read. Were these your verdicts then, and are these your verdicts now?
Yes, sir.
The jury has been polled. Anything further from the defense?
There you go.
From Greg McMichael?
No, Your Honor.
From Mr. Bryan?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, what that means with the court having accepted your verdict is that your role in this case is now at an end. What we're going to do today is I'm going to have all of you, the panel and the 3 alternates, go ahead and retire into the jury room. I'm going to address a couple matters logistically with you in the jury room once we get done here. But before we do that, and before I excuse you, I do want to thank you publicly for your service here in Glenn County. It has been a long trial, and I appreciate the fact that you have been attentive. You've listened to the evidence, and that is what we ask in this court. It's a very simple ask in a very complex way, so it's appreciated. when we all got together, I say we all got together, when we got together at different times, I said that I was going to thank you a number of times and how I was going to tell you I do truly appreciate your time here. Hopefully you understand why I said that when we started. I do also hope that you got a little bit of an insight into what goes on in a trial and maybe understand a little bit more of how important it is for members of our community to come down and be part of this process and serve as jurors in this community. So again, thank you for that service. And I'll come address you all in just a moment. You are excused.
All right, for the jury.
Superior Court Judge Timothy Walmsley dismissing the jury after roughly 11 hours of deliberating. The jury of 12 finding 3 men guilty of murdering Ahmaud Arbery last. This comes months after the 3 were indicted back in June 2020 on 9 criminal counts, including felony murder, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment. So all 3 defendants, we have Gregory and Travis McMichael and William Roddy Bryant, all found guilty of murder. The only one found guilty of malice murder was Travis McMichael. He is the one seen on that cell phone video shooting Ahmaud Arbery with his rifle. All 3 men last year chasing him down that road in Satilla Shores with their 2 pickup trucks, cornering him. What they said at the time was they believed he was a burglar in the area that had come through the neighborhood several times. But in that moment where Travis McMichael pulled the trigger, that is what the jury had found, that he is guilty of malice murder. I want to read through some of the charges here, all of them. In fact, there are 9 counts that the jury had to consider, again, deliberating for about 11 hours here. So bear with me here. So for Travis McMichael on all 9 counts, guilty on all 9 counts, we have malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, criminal attempt to commit a felon, false imprisonment. And then we're going to move on to Gregory McMichael here. All right, so we have the list of charges here for you. This is Travis McMichael, the son of Gregory McMichael, who pulled the trigger and killed Ahmaud Arbery last February in Satilla Shores, guilty on all counts. Gregory McMichael, his father, who joined in the chase after Ahmaud Arbery and was there in the bed of the pickup truck with his own gun in hand, also found guilty. But the only one he was not found guilty on was for malice murder. So guilty on all 9 counts. When we have that graphic, I would love for you guys to pull it up. The 3rd defendant, William Roddy Bryant, he is the neighbor who joined in the search. He's the one who shot that cell phone video as we saw Ahmaud Arbery running down the street in Satilla Shores. He has been found guilty on 6 of the 9 counts. The not guilty counts was for malice murder, 2nd count, felony murder, and the 6th count, which is aggravated assault, the 7th count, found guilty. So again, 6 out of 9 of the counts, William Roddy Bryant, the neighbor who shot that cell phone video, has been found guilty of. We're still waiting to learn when sentencing will happen. We understand the judge will hand down the sentence at some point. Right now, we are waiting for the family to gather outside of the courthouse and give us a statement. One of our reporters inside the courtroom said that she saw the family holding hands when the verdict was being read. We want to turn now to former prosecutor Brett Williams to join us in right now to kind of help us figure out all of these charges here, because there's some repetition here. Brett, are you there? All right, it does not look like that we have Brett Williams. We're waiting for him to join the line here to get some legal analysis to help us figure out, why Travis McMichael was found guilty out of all of the 3 defendants of malice murder and the other ones were not. But again, Gregory McMichael found guilty on 8 of the 9 counts. William Roddy Bryant found guilty on 6 of the 9 counts. All of these 3 men are also facing federal hate crime and attempted kidnapping charges. That is a separate case that we will hear next year. A number of family members in the courtroom today. We understand Ahmaud Arbery's mother is there, Wanda Cooper Jones, his father, Marcus Arbery. We saw the Reverend Al Sharpton arrived to the courtroom this morning doing a prayer with the friends and family outside the courthouse. Also, Lee Merritt, who represents the mom, Ahmaud Arbery's mom. She is there as well. This jury has been hearing this evidence over a few weeks now. Jury selection took over a week for that to happen. 11 white people, 1 black person weighing in for roughly 11 hours here the day before Thanksgiving with these guilty verdicts. A lot of tension, a lot of anxiety over this case. This has been a racially charged case at the time and through the last year and a half. Many people liken it to a modern day lynching. Watching Ahmaud Arbery run down the street there being chased with guns and with pickup trucks. We are waiting again for former prosecutor Brett Williams to join us. I've just learned that he is just a few seconds from joining us. Brett, are you there?
Good afternoon.
To today's verdict, Brett.
Yes. Well, it is a pretty momentous moment to finally get a verdict in this case. And a lot of what we've heard is not unexpected, these convictions. And of course, there are distinctions between the defendants, but ultimately they may, from the standpoint of the sentence, be distinctions without a difference.
Were you surprised that only Travis McMichael was found guilty of malice murder?
I was not surprised. I think it could have gone either way, but it seems the jury made a distinction between the person that pulled the trigger versus the other persons that were involved in the murder. But I do refer back to this notion of a distinction without a difference. But there is a difference, obviously, between malice murder and felony murder, but they are both murder.
Can you explain the difference for folks who are not so versed in the law here? Because, you know, with every legal case, we learned a little bit more about how the law works. What essentially is the difference between malice murder and felony murder?
The difference, and I put it this way, with respect to malice murder, you need malice of forethought. And that can happen pretty quickly. And an intent to murder someone. Felony murder is different. It's the commission of a murder that occurs while you are committing a felony. So in this case, let's say you are committing a felony of false imprisonment, and the person who you falsely imprisoned is killed. That's felony murder. So it's the difference being one, you set out to murder a person, the other situation, you set out to commit some other felony, and a person died in the course of that felony.
Brett, I want to take a look at Gregory McMichael, the father here who joined his son Travis McMichael last February in chasing down Arbery through that Satilla Shores neighborhood. If we could pull that up here, he was found guilty of 8 of the 9 counts. And we have all of them listed here. I'm hoping we can get to it because I was just told in my ear that we have it, but not guilty on malice murder, felony murder, all felony murder from aggravated assault to false imprisonment, criminal attempt to commit a felon. But when you look at William Roddy Bryant, you have a not guilty on count 2, which is felony murder, but a guilty on count 3 felony murder. What is the distinction there?
And my understanding is that the distinction may have turned on the fact, and I think there was some testimony that William Bryan was unclear or didn't know that the other 2 individuals had weapons. And so what's being said is that the assault, the aggravated assault with the weapon, he's not guilty of because he didn't know that felony was going to be occurring, because he didn't know that there was going to be an aggravated assault with a weapon, because he didn't know a weapon was on the scene or had been brought.
How do you think the defense did with trying this case here, with defending their clients here?
Well, I think the defense ultimately skirted the line between putting Ahmaud Arbery on trial, which can be a defense strategy, and vilifying a victim. And there is a distinction. One, the first you may want to do, put the victim on trial, not the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be careful that you don't go too far and that it starts to appear what some may believe it is, that you're just vilifying a dead man.
Do you think that turned the jury off?
I can't speak to what was in the mind of this particular jury, but that typically turns off practically any jury that is not itself corrupt. And I don't think any jury I've ever been in front of is corrupt. I don't think this jury was corrupt. So I could see that if someone thought they went too far, it would turn them off and not change the jury's approach about assessing the case and the offenses and whether or not the people are guilty, but tuning out whatever the lawyers have to say because you don't trust anything coming out of their mouth anymore.
Brett, I believe we are looking at live video from outside the courthouse right now. Is this live video, guys? All right, this is a live look outside the Glynn County Courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia, as we have supporters, friends, family gathering outside. We just saw someone leave the courthouse with their fists pumped in the air. Everyone is waiting for the family and for the attorneys to come out to give some sort of reaction here. We did hear after the first count was read for Travis McMichael being found guilty of malice murder, someone in the courtroom shouted, woo, and was just very excited. And the judge asked for that person to be removed from the courtroom. We're not sure who that was, but definitely a sign of excitement and relief over this case that has gone on for more than a year now. Brett, you are a former prosecutor. How do you think the state did in presenting this case?
I think the state did a much better than average job. I think the state did a good job. If I had to rate it 1 to 10, I'd say 7.5 to 8. I think, and of course, that's just my own personal kind of shorthand. I think the state did a very good job, and I think the state did a good job of keeping the case and the jurors focused on what are the issues. There's a lot going on around this case, but ultimately the issue had to do with whether or not one man was murdered or killed. Whether he was murdered and folks should be held accountable for that, or whether he was killed and that there was some legitimate, valid justification for that young man losing his life. And I don't want to even use the term losing his life. He didn't lose it, having his life taken.
Well, he was murdered.
So
we can now say he was murdered based on the conviction today.
Say that again, sorry.
We can now say he was murdered based on the conviction today that was just handed down by the jury.
Absolutely. The jury has spoken, and the jury has listened to all the evidence and made a conclusion and has concluded that he was murdered and convicted the persons that were the perpetrators of that murder. That was their question, and that's what they resolved. And the case has been resolved in that respect. There's a jury verdict of murder.
The argument by lead prosecutor Linda Dunikowski, you can't chase a man down and claim it's self-defense. That stood out for me through the closing arguments. What stood out for you that you think sealed the deal here for the jury to come back and find all 3 men guilty of murdering Ahmaud Arbery?
Well, I think that what you just said is probably the most powerful thing of all. Self-defense practically defines itself. Defend yourself. We all saw the video. That was not defense of self. That was aggressive, offensive behavior on the part of the 3 men. So I thought initially they had a steep hill to climb, both in claiming the citizen's arrest and then secondarily self-defense. There was an effort, and maybe it's all they had, to claim, well, I was defending myself against the attack that ensued after I pulled a gun on the victim. But you start to get into a situation of wordplay when you suggest something of that nature.
What are the penalties that these men are looking at, Brett?
They're looking at life. So, and they have to serve 30 years before there is a consideration of whether or not they should be released. So we're talking about a long time, and probably we're talking about a lifetime for some of these individuals, given their age.
Yeah. Death penalty is not on the table in this case, correct?
That is correct. My understanding is that the death penalty was not pursued by the prosecutor in this case, or by the state.
So what happens next year? We have, how soon do you think we'll see sentencing here?
That will be up to the judge, but it may be probably a very quick sentencing in the sense that there's been a lot of discussion about this case that's gone on for quite a bit of time. We know quite a bit about this case. So I don't think that there is the necessity for a drawn out time period before the sentencing. I suspect that that's been thought about to some extent, and it'll be up to the judge, but I expect you will see sentencing fairly quickly.
I can't imagine what Ahmaud's mom and father are feeling right now. I am sure just an overwhelming rush of emotions and relief.
Well, I can think of two words, and they don't do justice to the circumstances, and I can only vicariously feel what they are probably feeling, because I've never been in a situation. But two words are relief and vindication.
Yeah. So this is not over yet. We have sentencing, and we also have the federal hate crime and attempted kidnapping charges. That is a separate case. What do you know about that? What do you know about that case and what we can look forward to that one?
I don't know a lot about that case because it has not gotten the level of attention this one has, at least in terms of my access to information. But I expect that while that might be more difficult in the sense that you start talking about issues of race, which in this country can be a difficult thing to talk about and put our arms around, this conviction of all three men in this case sets a backdrop for the pursuit of that case that I think is pretty powerful and almost makes that case not an afterthought, but this was a biggie.
Yeah, a huge one. All right, Brett Williams, former prosecutor. Thank you for joining us. I want to move over to Hope Ford right now. She's live outside Glynn County Courthouse in Brunswick with much more on this guilty verdict for all three men accused, no longer accused, convicted, found guilty of murdering Ahmaud Arbery. Hope?
Yeah, so we're outside the courthouse right now. You can kind of see we're kind of waiting right now to see if the family is going to come out, if the defense attorneys are going to come out. So we're kind of just waiting right now. That's why you might be kind of looking at just some microphones right now. But you're probably hearing a lot of cheering going on. There's a large group of people who have, a lot of them been here since day one. Some people who traveled in just for the verdict. We have Gerald Griggs, actually, who's up there. He's an Atlanta attorney, and several Atlanta people are actually also out here right now. But there's a lot of people who started cheering so loudly when that very first guilty verdict for Travis McMichael came through. We were actually sitting in cars across the street from the courthouse, and those screams were so loud you could actually hear the crowd cheering from across the street. So there's a lot of people who are happy with the verdict, who believe that justice has been served, and who are chanting. And everyone's kind of gathered around and kind of, really at the front of the courthouse right now. Not just the tons of cameras that are out here, but also all of the people waiting really to hear from the Arbery family and to hear from anybody else that might come out here and talk today.
Hope, can you hear me? Hope, are you still there?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. What are they screaming in the background there? It's really
Yes, I'm
hard
still
to
there.
make
Can you
out
hear
what
me?
they're saying.
So they're going back and forth from chanting Ahmaud Arbery's name and just chanting justice, chanting Black Lives Matter. So they're chanting a lot of different things, waving flags in the air. See Black Lives Matter flags. You see what looks like an American flag with a fist raised in the air on it as well. So trying to listen right here. Yeah, so right now they're just chanting, what do we want justice and when do we want it now? So they just have been really, again, since the first guilty verdict came down, folks out here just cheering and continuing to chant and continuing to wait. We have a lot of pastors out here, they still have a lot of children who are out here as well with their parents who are kind of walking around. Some of them are actually wearing shirts with Ahmaud Arbery's name on them. Again, returning to chanting Ahmaud Arbery right there.
Hope, can you bring us inside the courtroom when this verdict was read, the reaction from Ahmaud Arbery's mother and father?
Yeah, so right as the very first verdict was the one for Travis McMichael, that guilty verdict for malice murder, there was someone in the courtroom who actually had an outburst. It was audible enough to where you could actually hear it. And at the time, Greg McMichael's wife, Travis McMichael's mom, Lee, she was actually holding her hands pretty tightly. Marcus Arbery stood up and Marcus Arbery, who is Ahmaud Arbery's father, he stood up and he cheered and he said it was a long time coming. And one of the family's attorneys, Ben Crump, tried to calm him down, but the judge stopped the proceedings at that point. And if you were watching this live, you probably heard the judge ask the person who had the outburst to leave, and that was Marcus Arbery. So security did tell he had to leave at that point in time after he stood up and yelled. And Arbery's mom, Awanda Cooper Jones, as soon as that first guilty verdict came through, she just started crying uncontrollably. She's cried at several points throughout this entire trial. She cried, whenever she saw all of those videos that she had tried to avoid seeing this entire time. And of course, sitting in that courtroom, she had to watch all of those videos, including very obviously graphic videos showing her son's body. So many times that she broke out in tears of sadness. And it looked at that point in time, whenever she was crying, that she was crying with a little bit of satisfaction there as that first guilty verdict was read out at that point in time. So his father had to exit the courtroom for making an outburst. And then Jones just crying. She was rocking back and forth. She was shaking the hands of Reverend Al Sharpton and Lee Merritt, who were both here with her. They were, really tightly grasping her hands. Travis McMichael's mom and Greg McMichael's wife, she has kind of remained kind of silent throughout the whole time, kind of looking straight ahead as they read all of those verdicts out, kind of a little bit motionless. She was looking at her husband, Greg, and he did turn to look at her at one point in time. They didn't say anything to each other or mouth any words or anything like that, as far as whenever they did look at each other. When the verdicts continued to be read as it got through Travis McMichael, as it got through Greg McMichael, you could just kind of see the supporters of the McMichaels and the Bryans. They were wiping tears from their eyes. They were trying to comfort each other at that point in time. And again, even inside the courtroom, I told you how loud these supporters were outside. You can still hear all those supporters inside the courtroom as they were cheering when all of the verdicts were read out today.
An emotional day, Hope, that's for sure. Any word from the judge as to when the sentencing will happen?
He did talk at the end once he excused the jury. He told all of the attorneys in the room that they were going to work together to see what they can do as far as scheduling. He did say it could be a couple of weeks before they're able to get that sentencing hearing scheduled and then get them back in there, everyone back in there for that. Of course, tomorrow being Thanksgiving, may not know a better timeline until maybe later on this afternoon, but probably Friday will be the better idea of when we will know for sure what they're looking like as far as having that sentencing hearing.
Hope, it took this jury roughly 11 hours to come to this verdict. Can you tell us what you observed from the jury? It seemed like there were a lot of note takers in the group.
There were a lot of people who were taking notes. I was not physically in the courthouse. We were kind of relying on some of our pool reporters who were in the courthouse, kind of relaying a lot of details to us. But they were taking notes. You know, really, whenever things got complicated, I mean, you have three defendants here, and then of course you have the state presenting, their arguments. So they were really taking a lot of notes whenever things kind of started to get a little bit, convoluted over not so much around things that they could actually see as far as videos or anything like that. But when it came to a lot of those explanations that both sides were trying to give, that's when a lot of those notes came out. During the closing arguments, a lot of notes taking then as well. And then as the judge read off the list of charges and the instructions yesterday, there's a lot of furious note taking there as well, because they had a huge task ahead of them. And then of course, when you got down to Roddy Bryant, there was a possibility that he they would not consider that one of those aggravated assault charges, and that they would consider 3 lesser charges. So there was a lot going on yesterday that they were trying to kind of write down and kind of wrap their minds around, having to go back and sort through weeks of evidence and 27 charges. So they were sharp in there as they listened and then went back to work on their conclusion.
More and more difficult to hear you out there, Hope, but we appreciate you giving your insight as to what happened this morning when the jury found all 3 men guilty of murdering Ahmaud Arbery. That verdict being handed down around 1:36 this afternoon. All of the attorneys, I know there's a lot going on there, Hope. Have any of the attorneys mentioned anything about an intent to file an appeal? We heard numerous times throughout the trial requests for a mistrial. Any word from the attorneys yet as to whether they plan to appeal this verdict?
We haven't heard any word that they are going to or file any types of appeal. We did have a chance to talk to Roddy Bryant's attorney yesterday, and we asked him, okay, what are you going to do in the event that the jury finds your client guilty? What are you thinking about an appeal? At the time, he kind of brushed an appeal off, and he said, you know what, we're not even worried about an appeal. We're going to win, and Roddy Bryant's going to walk out of that courthouse. So when we did get the chance to talk to one of the attorneys, he did just kind of throw the chance of an appeal away. Of course, that was really early on in the deliberation process. That was probably maybe 2 hours after the jury started deliberating, whenever his attorney kind of brushed off the idea of an appeal. So they may be working on that strategy right now to see what they're going to do. Roddy Bryant's attorney asked for a motion to sever during closing arguments instead of at the beginning of the trial. That motion to sever being, of course, to separate his client from the rest of the clients as far as any charges or a trial. So he actually waited till the end, till closing arguments, for that motion to sever. So it is highly possible that might be something that he wants, because he has specifically said from the beginning that he did not believe that his client should be with the other 2. And as well, there was a point in time when the jury went back into the courtroom today prior to the verdict. They wanted to watch some evidence. They wanted to watch the video that Brian had taken of Ahmaud Arbery being killed. They wanted to watch the original video. They also wanted to watch it slow down. And then they wanted to hear Greg McMichael's phone call. Roddy Bryant objected to that because he did not want the jurors to watch that and then be considering his client at the time when they're watching those videos, and also listening to Greg McMichael's 911 call. So he in particular has been very adamant that he did not want his client tried or really associated with the McMichaels in any way.
Yeah, I mean, even on one of the counts, Hope, and we had been talking about this yesterday, the count 7 for Roddy Bryant there was more in that particular count, that if the jury did not find him guilty on all the other charges, that they could find him guilty of reckless conduct, reckless driving, simple assault. And at the end of the day, he was found guilty. That was one of the counts he was found guilty of, William Roddy Bryant, 6 out of the 9 counts. Already, I'm looking at Twitter here, Hope. People are already saying, thank goodness for that cell phone video. Had it not been released, we wouldn't be here today.
Exactly, and that again is something that Roddy Bryant's attorney said several times. He said that during his closing arguments. He said that was pretty much at the beginning of his closing arguments. that we would not be here. There would be no trial had it not been for that video. Of course, a lot of people have said that on social media. And as you know, people protested in Brunswick before anybody in the world even really knew about a video. People were protesting in Brunswick over the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. So when that video came out, it kind of, catapulted everything and ended in what we're seeing here today. And several people had tweeted me saying, justice was served. And also, again, going back to that video and saying, thank God there was video. And it's ironic that the person that took the video, of course, is now among one of the people that is convicted and found guilty of the death of Ahmaud Arbery.
Hope you're outside the courthouse in Glynn County there in Brunswick. We're seeing a lot of activity, people chanting no justice, no peace. Can you give us more of a scene setter as well while you're out there?
Yeah, so it's we have let me walk up here for a little bit and see. I'm kind of a little bit farther back from my camera person because there's a lot of media up here, as you can probably imagine, so that I can get a closer look at what you might be seeing right now. So I think, Mike, you have your headphones in right there. If you can just pan a little bit to where some folks are coming out here right now. Maybe you're gonna just listen in for just a second. It looks like the family might be getting ready to come out, but there's a lot of supporters on the steps right now. A lot of people that I'm recognizing from protests and from activism that happened over the summer last year with the protest. And it looks like there might be some family coming out here right now. Trying to get a little bit of a better look up there. I'm a little bit farther behind. And there you have it. You have Reverend Al Sharpton, Lee Merritt, you have Wanda Cooper-Jones, Ben Crump, you have Marcus Arbery. They're all walking out here, as you just saw, holding hands. Of course, people are cheering right now. They seem happy. People seem happy to see them. They may be making their way over to that podium here in just a second to speak to everyone that's been out here waiting for them to come out.
Let us say, first and foremost, we're going to start by thanking God for shining on us. Let us thank these lawyers. Amen. Let us thank the prosecutors. Amen. Let us thank the activists that y'all called the mob that marched and stood up. Let us thank all of the people that believed. And let us, more than anything, thank the mother and father of Ahmaud. They lost a son, but their son will go down in history as one that proved that if you hold on, that justice can come. This mother would tell me, Reverend, we're going to win this. When I had doubts, she kept praying. This father said, we got to get some justice for my son. And let the word go forth all over the world that a jury of 11 whites and one black in the deep South stood up in the courtroom and said that black lives do matter. Let it be clear that almost 10 years after Trayvon, God used Wanda and Marcus's son to prove that if we kept marching and kept fighting, we would make you hear us. We got a lot more battles to fight, but this was an important battle today. This was proving that our children know their value. And that's why those people that march, I'm talking about the people here that was here when nobody else was here. They stood up. Come on. Brunswick. Real talk. Brunswick, Georgia will go down in history as the place that criminal justice took a different turn. Let us pray. Dear God, Dear God, we come thanking you for your mercy, thanking you for giving us a prosecutor's team that when it looked to us like the stacks, they stacked the jury, that you still found a way to open up the minds of people to listen to the evidence and weigh it based on facts, not based on skin color. That you gave strength to this mother and you gave strength to this father to not give up on you, even when many of us doubted, even when many of us said it's not going to happen. You came in the state of Georgia, a state known for segregation, a state known for Jim Crow, and you turned it around. You took a young unarmed boy that they thought was worthless, and you put his name in history today. Years from now, decades from now, they'll be talking about a boy named Ahmaud Arbery that taught this country what justice looks like. As we go forth, let us go forth in the victory you've given us. Thank everyone in Brunswick that marched and stood out in front of this courthouse that was called the lynch mob, but they kept on marching. And let us know that all whites are not racist and all blacks are not worthless, that we're all your children and we will give you the grace and give you the glory. The glory be yours, not ours. Let us not be proud and let us not be vengeful. But let us be thankful that you brought us closer together today. These blessings we ask in your name and your sake. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. We never had a Thanksgiving like today. We will hear from the attorneys and the parents. Let us hear from the attorney for Wanda, who is running for the Texas Attorney General. He asked me not to say it, but I'm going to say it because we need attorney generals like this.
Amen.
Lee Merritt, followed by the Attorney General of Black America, who flew in and out even as he handled other cases. These lawyers kept going to the wall and stood up.
Amen.
We walked out of court buildings with tears in our eyes. We cried inside, but they were tears of joy because people like Thurgood Marshall and others broke down barriers to produce a Ben Crump and a Lee Merritt.
Amen.
Lee Merritt.
All right. Amen.
You all don't want to hear from me. Of Ahmaud Arbery, as we all do, we wrap our arms around them. The only reason that I'm speaking is the introduction for a mother.